They say it's just a cow, but the sages always knew the red heifer carries a code that transcends time, a code destined to activate only in the last days. While crowds celebrate her arrival as a messianic sign, few notice the real enigma. The heifer's ritual is the only mitzvah that makes the pure become impure, and the impure become pure. Why? The Midrash whispers that this inversion is no accident. The Talmud reveals that even Solomon, the wisest of all, could not grasp its mystery. And Kabbalah goes further. It says the heifer is not merely an animal, but a spiritual mirror, a veiled announcement that final purification will not come by logic, but through surrender. If you've never heard this before, it's because few are ready to decode the symbol before it manifests. For centuries, the red heifer was seen as merely a rare animal, a strange requirement for an ancient ritual. But the sages declared, every pure material has a spiritual reflection. The Zohar explains the heifer is a code for the soul that purifies chaos. It's not about flesh and blood, but a cosmic principle hidden in the scriptures. What if the Torah was never speaking of a cow, but of a spiritual portal? The Talmud, Para 3-5, says the heifer must be entirely red, without blemish. This isn't just legal precision, it's pure symbolism. Red represents divine judgment, burned until it becomes ash. And the ashes are what remain once ego dissolves. It's the death of self that creates space for the sacred. In the Midrash, we find something even more puzzling. The heifer purifies the impure, but defiles the one who prepares it. This seems contradictory until we grasp the deeper mystery. Purity in the spiritual realm is not static. It moves, it shifts. The one who carries redemption pays the price of contact. The heifer is burned outside the camp, far from the temple. That carries profound symbolism. Purification begins outside the sacred places, in the realm of chaos. It teaches us that redemption begins in obscurity. It is there, in the world's shadows, that light ignites first. And if the heifer has already arrived, the question is no longer when. The question is, are we ready for the kind of purification it demands? Because this isn't an ancient rite, it's a living summons. In the next topic, you'll discover why her ashes hold a hidden code. The ashes of the red heifer were kept in pure vessels since the days of Moses. According to the Talmud, only 9 heifers have been used throughout history. The 10th will be used by the Messiah. This is not just tradition, it's encoded prophecy, a hidden sign that the time of messianic purification is approaching. The Rambam affirms that the 10th heifer will be prepared by the King Messiah, who will soon be revealed. That's powerful, because the ritual that seemed merely symbolic now becomes a prophetic countdown. The heifer becomes a pointer on the divine clock, and every profane movement in the world is a tick toward the appointed hour. The ashes did not only cleanse the body, they restructured the soul. They were mixed with living waters and sprinkled on the 3rd and 7th days. Why? The 3rd day speaks of separation, the 7th of completeness. Together, these stages portray a full transformation, a death and a rebirth. The sages say that one who does not understand the secret of the ashes cannot understand the Torah, because they are a living parable of the soul's journey, burning, ash, water, and time. Each phase embodies a step of spiritual reconfiguration, and perhaps this is happening to the world right now. If the 10th heifer is revealed in our generation, we are not just witnessing history. We are part of it. And in the next topic, you'll see how this sign is linked to the return of the heavenly temple itself. Purification by the red heifer was essential to enter the temple. Without it, no one could step inside. This means that the building of the third temple, the true heavenly one, is directly tied to the heifer, not as a detail, but as the key that unlocks the gates. Without purification, there is no revelation. Midrash Rabbah says, the temple will descend but only be visible to those who are purified. That forces us to rethink everything. Perhaps the delay is not political or technical, but spiritual. The temple is ready but invisible, awaiting a people who can withstand its light. The connection between the heifer and the temple is more than legal. It's energetic. The heifer cleanses the spiritual frequency of the people. It's like recalibrating a signal to receive the transmission from above. The temple is divine broadcast, awaiting the proper channel. The rabbis teach that the heifer represents the elevation from physical domain to heavenly domain. Flesh becomes ash. Ash becomes sacred matter. The ritual opens a sacred space. It's spiritual alchemy, a hidden path from earth to glory. And in the next topic, we'll see the strangest detail of all, why the heifer must be burned outside the city, and what that reveals about the return of the Messiah. The Torah commands the heifer to be sacrificed outside the camp, far from the city. There is no explicit reason, but the sages say the place of impurity is also the point of redemption. The Messiah, according to some sources, will also come from the outside, from where no one expects, from the margins, from exile. This echoes Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, despised, without beauty. It also recalls Yeshua, who was crucified outside the walls. Coincidence or revelation? The heifer burns away from the center, because purification begins where religion ends, where eyes no longer see. The smoke of the heifer rises to heaven, but starts from the dirty ground. That's a spiritual key. The divine presence does not dwell in pride, but in surrender. The path to the Holy of Holies begins in the dust, where pain and hope collide. The red heifer points to a place where purity and exile meet, where redemption is not clean or polished, but raw and hidden. The Messiah comes not with applause, but through ashes. If this resonates with your spirit, subscribe now, because in the next episode, The New Babel, you'll see how this ancient fire exposes the modern tower we're building without even noticing. The Torah does not treat impurity as mere sin, but as a break in frequency with the sacred. And death is the ultimate fracture. But the red heifer did not heal the body, it purified the soul. A ritual that defied human logic, yet moved something in the invisible realm. The strangest part? The priest who performed the ritual became impure in the process. A paradox, as if the Redeemer had to absorb the other's weight in order to restore him. This echoes something deeper, something messianic. According to the Midrash, the heifer symbolizes Israel's failure with the golden calf, but the Eternal, in mercy, provided a similar pure animal to annul the impurity caused by sin. A substitution, a restoration code. In Kabbalah, this ritual activates a cosmic correction. To purify from death is like lighting a lamp in a room of darkness. And that kind of light does not come from below. The red heifer is a spiritual medicine that operates in time and soul. But the most unsettling truth is yet to come. For the sages say this purification was not just for the dead, it was a rehearsal for something much greater. And in the next topic you'll see why all of this points directly to the Messiah. The Talmud, Para Aduma 3-5, affirms that the red heifer will be offered again in the days of the Messiah. But why? What would the Messiah have to do with an ancient ritual of ashes and water? The secret lies in the contrast, the purest touching the most impure. The sages say the Messiah will come riding a donkey, a symbol of matter, simplicity, and earth. And the heifer was also an earthly animal. Both carry something sacred in silence. Both in humility redeem what has fallen. In Jewish tradition, the Messiah doesn't just rule, he cleanses, he restores, he enters chaos and transforms it. Like the priest who becomes impure to purify, the Messiah descends into the dust to awaken the soul. The red heifer is a spiritual mirror, and some saw in it a code reflecting the hidden mission of the Redeemer. The Torah never says everything outright. It speaks in shadows, gestures, and patterns. This ritual is one of those veiled keys. What few realize is that the final purification has not yet occurred. The Messiah has not yet purified the bones scattered across the earth, and the temple has not returned. But what if I told you it's all already being prepared behind the scenes? Today, as you watch this video, a red heifer lives in Israel. Real, documented, examined, without blemish. To many, it's just coincidence. To others, it's the final sign before the veil falls. Official reports and religious leaders have confirmed the priests are in training. The instruments are ready. The ash dome is built. The modern world is about to witness a ritual not seen for nearly 2,000 years. But what if the Bible wasn't just talking about cows? What if this heifer is the physical symbol of a spiritual cycle restarting, the restoration of the temple, the messianic revelation, the countdown to cosmic purification? Mystics say that at the right moment, heaven activates the symbols of earth. The physical becomes a shadow of the spiritual. That's why the world moves unaware, because it was all written, but few know how to read the signs. Prepare yourself, because in the next topic you'll understand why this heifer might not just herald purification, but separation. A spiritual choice between rising or sinking. The ashes of the heifer were mixed with water and sprinkled on the impure. But those who refused remained unclean. Simple as that. There was no middle ground. This is the hidden code. Either you accept purification or carry invisible death. The prophets warned, before restoration comes separation, not between nations, but between those who love the light and those who love the shadows. The red heifer is a divider, a spiritual test disguised as tradition. The Messiah will come as fire, says Malachi, and purify as one refines gold. He won't ask for permission. He'll activate what has already been written. The choice is yours. Either the fire burns you, or it reveals you. The red heifer at its core is about that. About being ready for what cannot be controlled. About aligning your interior with what is coming from above. Because when the temple descends, there will be no time left for purification. And this leads us to the final key, the lost link between the temple, the heifer, and the next great tower humanity is building, a new Babel, disguised as progress. That's the focus of the next episode. The red heifer purified those who had touched the dead. But what if our current world is already spiritually dead without knowing it? Connected, technological, modern, yet without presence, without altar, without awareness. That, too, is impurity. The heavenly temple has not yet descended. And the question is, why? Perhaps because we're building another tower, a new kind of Babel with chips, data, and digital pride, but without light, without memory of the sacred. This generation may not touch corpses, but it consumes corruption. And the Torah says even that defiles. What we see, what we hear, what we crave, shapes the soul. And without purification, there is no revelation. The red heifer is here, but is her generation ready? Or will the tower we are building block us from seeing what comes from above? These are the questions few are willing to ask. And in the next episode, we'll show how this new Babel is being built before our eyes, and how the Torah already left codes that foretold it all. Get ready. That's why those who dismiss the heifer may be ignoring the clearest sign of redemption, because she comes as ash, not as a crown, as ember, not as light. And only those who descend into the pain rise into the glory. That is the language of heaven. If this truth touches your spirit, subscribe to the channel now, because in the next topic we'll explore why some rabbis believe the return of the heifer marks the beginning of the final era.